Hey, my name is Alexander Chen. I'm 34 years old, and on October 15th, 2025, at exactly 12:17 a.m., I was 8 hours away from telling 300 people they no longer had jobs because I made one catastrophic mistake 18 months ago that I'd been lying about ever since. I was the founder and CEO of Vital Care AI, a healthcare technology company once valued at $50 million, featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, praised as the future of patient diagnostics. I built it after my younger brother David died at 19 from a rare autoimmune disease that doctors couldn't diagnose in time. I told myself I'd create something that would save people like him, that I'd use technology to fill the gaps where human error failed. But somewhere between the vision and the venture capital, between the mission and the money, I stopped being the guy who wanted to save lives and became the guy who just wanted to win. I trusted the wrong investor. Marcus Villano, charismatic, well-connected, a man whose handshake felt like a promise and whose contracts hid clauses I didn't read because I was too busy doing TED Talks about disrupting healthcare. He embezzled for 18 months. By the time I caught him, $7 million were gone, routed through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. We had enough left to run payroll for maybe 3 more months. The product was half finished, the board was panicking, and I, the visionary founder, spent 6 months lying to everyone. I lied to my employees, telling them funding was fine, that we were pivoting strategically. I lied to the board, showing them optimistic projections I knew were fiction. I lied to my wife, Sarah, who still thought we were saving for a house, who didn't know I'd mortgaged our condo, cashed out her grandmother's inheritance that she'd entrusted to me, all to keep the company alive 1 more quarter. Tomorrow? Today, technically, since it was past midnight, at 8 a.m., I was supposed to walk into a boardroom and say the words I'd rehearsed so many times they'd lost all meaning. We're filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Except I wasn't going to that meeting. I was going to run. That's why I was in the elevator of Glasswell Tower at 12:17 in the morning, heading to the penthouse where my office was. I needed to grab my passport, transfer what little cash remained in the discretionary account, maybe $50,000, and be gone before sunrise. I'd already bought a one-way ticket to Manila. By noon tomorrow, I'd be somewhere over the Pacific, and Sarah would wake up to an empty bed and a note I'd written and rewritten 12 times, but still didn't know how to end. I had it all planned. Get in. Get the documents. Get out. Disappear before anyone could stop me. But the elevator stopped first. It jolted, soft, almost polite, and then the lights flickered once, yellow and sickly, and the mechanical hum died. The LED display froze on the number 8, blinking like a failing heartbeat. I hit the button for the lobby. Nothing. I hit it again, and again. My fingertip went white from pressure. Somewhere in my head, I heard David's voice from 15 years ago, the last coherent thing he said before the seizures started. Alex, when you can't fix something, stop hitting it. I stopped, and that's when I heard her. You know, it might respond better to kindness than violence. I spun around. She was sitting on the floor in the corner of the elevator like she'd been there the entire time. Back against the steel wall, legs stretched out, hands resting loosely in her lap. Hospital scrubs, the blue-green kind that had been washed 1,000 times until the color was more memory than pigment. A worn canvas backpack beside her. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, with strands falling around a face that looked like it had aged a decade in the last 12 hours. A name tag hung crookedly from her chest pocket. Maya Santos. RN. I didn't remember her getting on. Maybe at floor 12. Maybe when I was staring at my phone, rereading that email from the board chair. Board meeting, 8 a.m., final decision, attendance mandatory. She looked up at me with eyes that were exhausted but sharp. The kind of eyes that had seen too many people break down at 3 a.m. in hospital corridors to be surprised by anything anymore. "You gonna try the emergency button?" she said, voice flat with fatigue. "Or just keep staring at me like I'm a hallucination?" I blinked, pressed the red button. A long beep. Static. Then a man's voice, bored and distant. "Security? What's the problem?" "Elevator's stuck," I said, too loud. "Between 8 and 9. We need out. Now." A yawn crackled through the speaker, barely suppressed. "Okay, sir, stay calm. Maintenance is on the way. Should be about 90 minutes. 90 minutes? My voice cracked. I don't have 90 minutes. "Sir, it's past midnight. Skeleton crew. The elevator technician is driving in from Queens. I'll call and push him, but you're not in any danger. Just sit tight." The speaker went dead. Silence filled the elevator like water. 90 minutes. In 8 hours, my entire life was going to collapse. And I had 90 minutes to sit in a metal box with a stranger. 90 minutes, I muttered, staring at the frozen number 8. "Perfect." "Could be worse," Maya said from her corner. "Could be stuck with someone annoying." I looked at her. She wasn't smiling, but there was something in her tone. Dry, resigned humor. The kind you develop when the universe has already done its worst, and you're just along for the ride. I slid down the opposite wall and sat on the floor, facing her across the narrow space. My shoes, Italian leather, $500, squeaked against the polished tile. My suit, custom-tailored back when I thought I was going to be someone, wrinkled and damp with stress sweat. "So," Maya said after a long silence, "you work up there, or are you running away from something?" I tensed. "Why would you assume I'm running?" She shrugged, eyes half closed like she was too tired to be diplomatic. After midnight, guy in an expensive suit, coming back to an empty building with a briefcase and a look on his face like he's about to do something irreversible. She opened one eye, glanced at me. "I work in the ER. I've seen that look before. Usually right before someone does something they can't take back." I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. She didn't push, just leaned her head back against the wall and let out a long, shaky breath, the kind that carries months of exhaustion you've been too busy to acknowledge. 90 minutes, she murmured, trapped in a box with a stranger. She looked at me again. "Want to play a game?" "What kind of game?" "Total honesty," she said. "No lies, no polite filters. Whatever we say in here dies in here. When those doors open, we go back to being strangers who never met. But while we're stuck..." She shrugged. "Why waste time pretending?" I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was serious. "You want to confess secrets to a complete stranger?" Maya's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. More like muscle memory of what smiling used to feel like. "Strangers are easier," she said quietly. "They don't know you well enough to judge, and you'll never see them again, so there's no consequences." She tilted her head. "When's the last time you told someone the complete truth?" My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another email. another reminder that time was running out. I looked at Maya Santos, this exhausted nurse who smelled like hospital antiseptic and spoke like someone who'd already lost everything and found a strange kind of peace in the wreckage. "Okay," I heard myself say, "total honesty." She smiled. It was small, broken, and the most genuine expression I'd seen on anyone's face in months. "Good," she said. "Then I'll go first." She took a breath. 6 hours ago, I killed a 16-year-old girl. The words hung in the recycled air like smoke. I stared at Maya. She stared at the floor between us, hands folded in her lap, fingers laced so tight her knuckles had gone white. "Her name was Gabriela Torres," Maya continued, voice flat in. That way people talk when they're trying very hard not to feel what they're saying. 16 years old, car accident, T-boned by a drunk driver at the intersection of Flatbush and Atlantic. She came into Brooklyn General ER at 6:47 p.m. with massive internal bleeding, fractured ribs, collapsed lung. We had maybe 10 minutes to stabilize her before she'd go into cardiac arrest. She paused, swallowed. I was the lead nurse on her case. I've done this 1,000 times. You assess, you prioritize, you move. But when they wheeled her in, Maya's voice cracked just slightly. She looked exactly like my sister. Same age, same curly black hair, same small scar above her left eyebrow from falling off a bike when she was 8. I didn't say anything. Didn't know what to say. "My sister Angelina died 8 years ago," Maya said. "Also 16. Also car accident. I wasn't there. I was in nursing school, studying for finals. She called me that night, asked if I could pick her up from a party. I said no. I was too busy. She got a ride with someone else. They crashed into a tree, going 70. She died before the ambulance arrived." Maya looked up at me, and her eyes were dry. Too dry, like she'd cried so much over the years that her body had simply run out. "I became a nurse because of Angelina," she said. "I told myself I'd save people like her, that I'd be the person who shows up when it matters. And for 8 years, I did. I saved dozens of people, hundreds maybe. But tonight," she closed her eyes. "Tonight, when Gabriela came in, I froze." "Froze?" I repeated quietly. 5 seconds, Maya said. "Maybe less, but in an ER, 5 seconds is everything." The attending physician called for a chest tube insertion. I had the equipment ready. But when I looked at Gabriela's face, at my sister's face, I just stopped. My hands wouldn't move. And by the time I snapped out of it, her heart had stopped. We tried to resuscitate her for 23 minutes. She was pronounced dead at 7:14 p.m. The elevator was so quiet, I could hear the faint hum of the emergency light above us. "My supervisor covered for me," Maya continued. "Told the attending it was equipment delay, not human error. But I know the truth. If I hadn't frozen, if I'd moved when I was supposed to, Gabriela Torres might still be alive. She had a mother who was in the waiting room, crying, begging God to save her daughter. And I couldn't even look at her when we came out to deliver the news. She looked at me. So that's why I'm here, at midnight, in this building. I was coming to see my boyfriend Marcus. He's a lawyer, works on floor 8. I was going to tell him I'm quitting nursing, that I can't do this anymore, that I'm broken and I don't know how to fix myself." She laughed, bitter and hollow. But he didn't answer his phone, probably working late, or sleeping, or... I don't know. It doesn't matter. Maya's hands unfolded, fell limp in her lap. "So there's my confession, Alexander Chen." She glanced at the fancy briefcase next to me, then at my face. "Now you." I sat there, absorbing what she'd just told me. Part of me wanted to say something comforting. It wasn't your fault. You were traumatized. 5 seconds didn't kill her. But I'd spent enough time around grief to know that platitudes don't fix anything. Instead, I took a breath and told her the truth. "I'm running away," I said, "from my company, from my wife, from 300 people who trusted me." And then I told her everything. I told her about David, my younger brother, who died at 19 because 3 different doctors misdiagnosed him until it was too late. About how I built Vital Care, AI to create diagnostic software that could catch the things humans missed. About the Forbes article, the TED Talk, the board meetings where investors threw money at me like I was the next Steve Jobs. I told her about Marcus Villano, the investor who seemed too good to be true because he was. About how I was so desperate for his funding that I didn't do proper due diligence. About the contracts I signed without reading because I trusted him. About the 18 months he spent siphoning money into offshore accounts while I was too busy giving keynote speeches to notice the company bleeding out. By the time I realized what was happening, I said, it was too late. $7 million gone, the product half built, and my voice caught. I couldn't admit it. I couldn't tell the board, couldn't tell my employees. So, I lied. For 6 months, I lied. I showed them fake projections, told them we were fine, took out loans I knew I couldn't repay, mortgaged everything my wife and I owned, spent her inheritance without telling her. I looked at Maya. Tomorrow morning, the board is meeting to vote on bankruptcy. 300 people are going to lose their jobs. My wife is going to wake up and realize we've lost everything. And I laughed, sharp and humorless. I was going to disappear. I have a ticket to Manila, $50,000 in cash. I was going to be gone before anyone could stop me. Maya didn't react, just listened with that same clinical focus she probably used with patients. "So that's my confession," I said. "I'm a coward. I built a company to save lives, but I destroyed 300 of them instead. And rather than face it, I'm running." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Maya said quietly, "Do you think David would want you to run?" The question hit me like a punch to the chest. "What?" "Your brother," Maya said. "The reason you started all of this. Do you think he'd want you to abandon everyone?" I opened my mouth, closed it, tried to think of an answer that wasn't just more lies. "I don't know," I finally said. "Yes, you do." I looked away, jaw tight. "He'd want me to stay," I admitted. "He'd say I'm being selfish, that running away doesn't fix anything." "And your wife?" I swallowed hard. "She'd be devastated, but at least she wouldn't have to watch me fail in person." Maya shook her head slowly. "That's not mercy, Alex. That's cruelty. You think disappearing is easier for her? She'd spend the rest of her life wondering what she did wrong, wondering if you ever loved her, wondering if you're alive or dead." Her words were sharp, but her tone wasn't cruel, just honest. "And what about you?" I shot back, defensive. "You're quitting nursing because you froze for 5 seconds? Because you're human?" "That's different." "It's not different," I said. "You made one mistake after 8 years of saving lives, and you're throwing it all away. How is that not running?" Maya's eyes flashed. "Because I killed someone, Alex. A 16-year-old girl is dead because I couldn't do my job. And 300 people are going to lose their livelihoods because I couldn't do mine, I countered. So what? We both quit? We both give up because we're not perfect? Silence filled the elevator again, heavier this time. Then Maya laughed, quiet, broken, but real. We're a mess, aren't we? Yeah, I said. We really are. She looked at me, and for the first time since the elevator stopped, something in her expression softened. Can I ask you something? Sure. If you could go back, Maya said, to the moment before you signed that contract with the investor, knowing what you know now, would you still do it? I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I said finally. I'd slow down. I'd read the contracts. I'd ask questions. I'd remember why I started the company in the first place instead of just chasing the next funding round. Maya nodded. If I could go back to tonight, she said, to the moment Gabriella came into the ER, I'd move. I'd push past the trauma and do my job, but I can't go back. Neither of us can. So what do we do? She leaned her head back against the wall, staring up at the flickering emergency light. I don't know, she said, but I know what my sister would tell me. She'd say that one mistake doesn't erase 8 years of saving lives, that quitting now means Gabriella died for nothing, that the best way to honor her is to learn from tonight and make sure it never happens again. I felt something shift in my chest, a loosening, like a fist unclenching after being clenched for 6 months. David would say the same thing, I admitted. He'd say that running away means everyone loses, that the 300 people who trusted me deserve better than a coward who disappears in the night. So, Maya asked, what are you going to do? I pulled out my phone, stared at the email about the board meeting. 8 a.m. Final decision. Attendance mandatory. I'm going to that meeting, I said slowly. I'm going to tell them the truth, all of it, what I did, what Villano did, how much money is left, and then, I don't know, maybe they fire me, maybe I lose everything anyway, but at least I won't be running. Maya smiled, small, sad, but genuine. Good. What about you? She was quiet for a long time. I'm going back to work tomorrow, she said finally. I'm going to tell my supervisor what really happened. I'm going to see a therapist, and I'm going to keep showing up, because that's what Angelina would want. Not perfection, just persistence. I nodded. Can I ask you something now? Sure. Your boyfriend, I said. Marcus, why were you really coming to see him? Maya's expression flickered, something vulnerable and painful crossing her face. Because I wanted him to tell me I'm not broken, she said quietly. Because I needed someone to say it's okay that I'm falling apart. But she trailed off, then shook her head. It doesn't matter. I think I already know he's not going to say that. Why not? Because I don't think he actually sees me anymore, Maya said. I think he sees the version of me that's competent and put together and doesn't need anything from him. And tonight, I needed someone. And he didn't answer. Before I could respond, the elevator jolted. We both looked up. The lights flickered, once, twice, and then came back fully. The hum of machinery returned. The LED display blinked from 8 to 9, then continued upward. 10, 11, 12. A crackling voice came through the speaker. Elevator's operational again. Sorry for the delay, folks. You should be moving now. Maya and I looked at each other. 90 minutes. That's how long we'd been stuck. It felt like a lifetime. The elevator dinged. Floor 8. The doors slid open. We both stood slowly, stiff from sitting on the floor. Maya picked up her backpack. I grabbed my briefcase, the one filled with documents I'd been planning to use to disappear. She stepped toward the doors, then paused and looked back at me. "Alex?" "Yeah?" "Thank you," she said, "for listening, for not judging, for reminding me why I do this." "Thank you," I said, "for the same." She smiled, brief, fleeting, but real, and stepped out into the empty hallway of the 8th floor. I watched her walk away, shoulders straightening with each step, like she was slowly remembering how to carry herself. The doors started to close. "Maya!" I called out. She turned. "If you ever need someone to talk to," I said, "someone who knows what it's like to fall apart. Brooklyn General ER, right?" She nodded. "And if you ever need someone to remind you not to run," she said, "I'll be there." The doors closed. The elevator continued upward. 13, 14, 15. I rode it all the way to the penthouse, walked into my office, looked at my passport sitting on the desk next to the printed ticket to Manila, and then I threw them both in the trash. I sat down at my computer and started writing an email to the board. "I need to tell you the truth about what happened to Vital Care AI, all of it. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I hit send. Then I called Sarah. She answered on the 3rd ring, voice groggy with sleep. "Alex, where are you? It's almost 2 in the morning." "I'm at the office," I said, "and I need to tell you something, everything. Can you meet me at home?" There was a pause. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I think I will be." 6 months later, I was standing outside Brooklyn General Hospital, holding 2 coffees and feeling ridiculous. Vital Care. AI had declared bankruptcy. The board fired me. 300 people lost their jobs, and I spent 4 months helping every single one of them find new positions, writing recommendations, making introductions, using every connection I had left. It didn't fix what I'd done, but it was something. Sarah and I separated. Not divorced. She said she needed time to figure out if she could trust me again. I moved into a studio apartment in Brooklyn and started seeing a therapist twice a week. Got a job as a consultant for healthcare startups, helping founders avoid the mistakes I'd made. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't pay well. But it was honest. And I thought about Maya Santos almost every day, about what she'd said in that elevator, about how strangers sometimes see you more clearly than the people who know you best, about how one conversation can save your life. So I decided to find her. I walked into the ER, asked for Maya Santos at the front desk. The receptionist looked up my name, made a call, then pointed toward the waiting area. "She'll be out in a minute." I sat down, holding the 2 coffees like an idiot, rehearsing what I'd say. "Hi, remember me? The guy who was going to abandon his entire life? I didn't, by the way. Thanks to you." The doors opened. Maya walked out, still in scrubs, hair pulled back, looking just as exhausted as she had that night. But when she saw me, her face lit up with surprise, and something that might have been joy. "Alex?" I stood up, handed her a coffee. "I thought you might need this after a shift." She took it, laughing. "How did you find me?" "You told me where you worked," I said, "and I wanted to say thank you, properly, not in an elevator while we were both having breakdowns." Maya's smile softened. "You stayed." "I stayed," I confirmed. "The company still went under. I lost everything, but I stayed, faced it, and I paused, searching for the right words. "I'm okay. Not great, but okay." "Good," she said. "That's good." What about you? Maya took a sip of coffee, considering. I'm still nursing, seeing a therapist, learning to forgive myself. She looked at me. I saved a 16-year-old last month. Car accident. Same injuries as Gabriella. And this time, I didn't freeze. I moved. I did my job. And he survived. I'm glad. We stood there in the fluorescent hospital light, two people who'd met at their lowest point and somehow helped each other climb back up. Marcus? I asked carefully. We broke up, Maya said. Turns out he was cheating. That night when I came to see him, he was with someone else in his office. Guess the elevator breaking down saved me from walking in on that. I'm sorry. Don't be, she said. I deserved better than someone who only loved the version of me that was convenient. Yeah, I said. You did. Maya looked at her coffee, then back at me. So why are you really here, Alex? I took a breath. Because 90 minutes in an elevator with you changed my life, I said. And I wanted to know if maybe we could talk again. Not as strangers confessing in a broken elevator, just as two people who understand what it's like to fall apart and put yourself back together. Maya smiled. I'd like that. Coffee sometime, when you're not exhausted from a 12-hour shift? How about now? She said. I just got off, and honestly, I could use the company of someone who doesn't think I have all the answers. We walked out of Brooklyn General together, into the cold November night, two broken people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment. Sometimes the person who saves your life is a stranger in an elevator, and sometimes, if you're lucky, they don't stay a stranger. A year later, Maya and I were dating. Not married. We both agreed we needed to fix ourselves before we could build something new together. But we were happy. Real happy. The kind that comes from two people who've seen each other at their worst and chose to stay anyway. I started a new company. Not Vital Care, AI, but something smaller, more focused, more honest. A consulting firm that helped healthcare startups avoid the mistakes I'd made. It wouldn't make me rich, but it might save someone from becoming me. Maya was promoted to senior nurse. She started running a support group for medical professionals dealing with trauma and PTSD. Gabriela Torres's mother came to one of the sessions. They talked for 3 hours. Maya couldn't bring her daughter back, but she could honor her by helping others heal. We never forgot that elevator. Sometimes, when one of us was having a bad day, spiraling, convinced we were failing again, the other would say, "Remember, 90 minutes, total honesty." And we'd sit down and talk, no filters, no pretending, just truth. Because the thing we learned that night wasn't that strangers are easier to confess to. It's that sometimes telling the truth to the right person at the right time can save your life. And sometimes the right person is a stranger in a broken elevator at midnight. Until next time, this has been Stories My Friend Told Me. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a stranger change your life? Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the moments that break us and the people who help us heal. Your story matters, and so do you.